for most people in the world, are very, very intent on finding a soulmate. That means somebody who they can look to make them happy, to make them feel safe, to make them feel cherished. When you see the TV movies, when you see things, stories on TV and in books, what you find is people are always seeking that special somebody to make them happy, to make them feel loved and wanted. Now, this is a very beautiful thing, and for most people in the world, that's going to be something that's very important to them during their lifetime. But there is a deeper and a better soulmate that you can find, and that is the soulmate of Dhamma. If you know Dhamma, then you always have your best friend with you. So, to get started on this idea, you can think about your breathing. Your breathing is always with you. It's always very close to you. Your breathing will always give a very good indicator for how you're feeling, whether you're stressed, whether you're relaxed, whether you're happy, whether you're unhappy. Your breathing is always there giving you feedback on how you actually feel. And most people in the world don't know how they actually feel. The reason is you're always caught up in the feeling of the present moment. Whatever's going on, you like this, you don't like that. You like this person, this thing is exciting. When there's nothing exciting, you feel bored, you start to fall asleep. This means that your consciousness, your awareness is always outside in the world with the people and with the things around you. But when your attention comes back to the breathing is always there with you. It's very gentle. It's not exciting. It's not boring. If you can train yourself to be able to sit with your breathing, then you will have found the soulmate in Dhamma. I want you to think about the cats and the dogs and the birds, even the cows. All these animals are able to just sit and breathe and be with themselves. They don't need the internet, they don't need Wi-Fi. The cow doesn't need a boyfriend, the dog doesn't need a girlfriend. The animals are able to just sit and be with themselves and breathe. And this is what we should be able to do as human beings. Instead, most of us, even adults, even children, even babies, we're more like a crazy monkey, always looking around for something exciting to do, something interesting to do, something to attract our attention. We're looking for entertainment the whole time. So for anyone who comes and sits to do meditation, when you look inside your mind, the first thing that you find is your mind is jumping around like a crazy monkey. Did you know this is actually your experience of yourself the whole time? It's not that your mind jumps around like a monkey just because you are doing meditation. No, this is the way your mind is the whole time. So, when you come to start the meditation and you sit and you find the mind leaps around, it thinks about your posture, your back, it thinks about the people around you, any noise that goes on in the room, you think, what's that noise? Where's that noise? Even the ticking of the clock can start to grab your attention. Or you start to think about the past or the future. Think about something somebody said to you once. You think about your family or your friends, how this happened, how that happened. I should have done this, I should have done that, I could have done something else. Or you think about the future, this is what I want. And usually when you think about the future, you are thinking about the things that you want to get. You want to eat this kind of food tonight for dinner. You want to be with that particular person. You want to see the latest movie. You want to own something, buy something, have something. Your mind is running away into the future. Anything but stop still and be with yourself and just be able to breathe. Well, I tell you, this becomes a habit. Always looking for some kind of entertainment, some kind of stimulation in the world around you becomes a habit. And if you do this habit while you are young, as you get older, the habit becomes harder and harder to break. Then what happens as adults, you find that the mind is running around like crazy. People come to do meditation and they say, oh, my mind just won't stop still. What do you expect? This is the way that you've trained your mind since you were very young, to always be absorbed in some kind of thinking, some kind of wanting, some kind of liking and disliking. So the mind will carry on in exactly the way that you have trained it. It's not going to change just because you come to a temple or because you sit and decide to do meditation. No. The mind is just a machine of habit. That means it carries on exactly the way you trained it to do ever since you were young. So we want to ask the question, what is the best way to be training the mind? Don't think of the mind as yourself. Think of the mind as something like an animal that needs to be trained, because it only works by habit. Whatever you do, very often, the mind will keep on wanting to do that thing. I can give you an example. This is from the Buddhist suttas, and the Buddha himself said this line: to whatever you think and ponder on often, towards that there is a leaning in the mind. So, the word leaning in the mind is like a bias. Think of it like a tree. If a tree grows up and it isn't straight, it grows up on an angle. As it gets larger and larger, when a strong wind comes, and the tree gets blown down, which way will the tree fall? It's not going to fall over that way. It's not going to fall this way. It's going to fall in the way that the tree is already leaning. So, in the same way, the mind thinks and ponders on things all the time. It's always moving, always wanting, always looking for some kind of stimulation. So of course, when you stop to do meditation, when you come to the temple or you go to the meditation center, the mind is going to carry on in that exact same fashion that you've trained it to be in. So, what we want to do is start to introduce a training for the mind. Rather than the mind being a crazy monkey, jumping around and being uncontrollable, we want to learn how to make the mind into something that's very tame, very easy to be with, very pleasant to be with. So I did notice this one time. I was in a foreign country and I was in a very wealthy area. And I saw in this area a huge house. It's worth a lot of money. And in this house, I saw a man sitting on a sofa reading a book. And I thought to myself, he looked quite happy reading his book in his very, very nice, very expensive house. But then when I watched him a bit more closely, he was scratching, he was shuffling around on his chair, he was eating some things from a plate on one side of him, he was drinking from a cup of tea. He kept looking up in the air and looking around, then coming back to his book. I could see that even a very wealthy person in a very beautiful house, in a very expensive area, they're still just a resident of their own mind. And if the mind isn't a peaceful and a beautiful place to be, it doesn't matter how big or expensive or beautiful that house is. they're not going to be a very happy person. And by contrast, if you consider the people who have trained their mind to be strong, train their mind to be peaceful, train the mind to be happy with just itself. For those people, they don't need a big or expensive house. They don't need beautiful surroundings. All they need is that little bit of space to bring their attention back to themselves. So, in that way, you are making your mind into a best friend. You're making your mind into your real home. So, for my own self, my inspiration came from many monks, not only Buddhist monks, but certain people who live that kind of lifestyle. The Buddha said that to be a human being, you need 4 things to support your life. You need to have good enough health. You need medicine. You need to have shelter, somewhere to keep away the wind and the sun and the cold and the heat. So, in order to be your own real soulmate, you really don't need very much at all in the world. According to Buddhism, you need 4 things in order to be happy. You need food, you need shelter, you need clothes, and you need medicine. These 4 things. For the first one, food, most people in the modern world are not short of food. As society has improved, and most people can get enough food to eat. Shelter, you need good enough shelter just to keep away the heat, the cold, the wind. Same for clothes. You need good enough clothes to keep away the hot, the cold, the wind, insects, and also to protect your modesty. And you also need good enough medicine. That means you need to be reasonably healthy and reasonably strong in order to be able to practice. Now, the Buddha said that if a person has a well-trained mind, then these 4 requisites will make it feel like that you're a prince. Just simple food will seem like a banquet. Simple shelter will seem like a palace. Simple clothes will seem like beautiful clothes of gold. Simple medicine will be enough to keep you happy and healthy. So this training of the mind is to make yourself into your own real home, to make yourself into your own soulmate. And what we do in order to practice this is we sit in meditation first. And what we find when the mind runs out to something to think about, something to want, something to dislike, what we find is you can stop. You can get hold of the mind and bring it back to your own attention, bring it back to your own breathing. And then every time the mind wanders out, whatever the mind picks up, be willing to stop, see what that thing is that's attracted your attention, and then return your attention back to the heart, back to the breathing, back to the meditation. Practicing in this way, what you are doing is practicing letting go. So that when the mind starts to control you, when the mind starts to pull you this way and that way, pull you into different kinds of thinking, you know how to stop and return and be with yourself. Now, when we do this in meditation, the things that attract your attention might not be very large, very special, very important. It's just a sound going on around you or a feeling in the body. But what you do when you practice with these small things, one little thing at a time, then later on in your life when the big things occur to you, you have practiced that ability to be able to let go and return your attention home. There's no use coming to the temple or coming to practice meditation when something big or major has happened in your life, when you're facing sudden illness or sudden death or sudden difficulties or sudden loss of your house, your income, all these kind of very large and difficult situations which occur to people in daily life. We need to have practiced before those things happen. Practice being able to return the attention to yourself, to be with your own breathing, to be happy in just the simplest of situations. If you can do this, what you will find is you will always have enough. Now, for most people in the world, they never have enough. You get $1 million, you need another $1 million, and then another $1 million to protect the first $1 million. But if you are happy with yourself, what you find is you always have enough. The world will always support you to the degree that's necessary. As well as the Buddhist saying that I gave you earlier, I can summarize it in another way. This is from a very famous little poem. I don't know where it comes from, but it's very true. Sow a thought, reap a habit. Sow a habit, reap a character. Sow a character, reap a destiny. That means that when you are sowing, means to introduce or to attach to or to welcome or to delight in. When you delight in certain kinds of thoughts, this will become a habit. When you make certain kinds of habits, this will become your character. And when you make a certain character, this will be your destiny. This means that we need to be very, very careful with the thinking. You need to have practiced meditation, that you can let go of thinking, that you can stand back from your own thinking, to be able to see even a single thought as it arises. Then you have a choice when thinking and thoughts come up. What kind of habit is this thought going to create? What kind of character is this habit going to build? What kind of destiny is that character going to have? On the other hand, if you can make a good thought, sow a good habit, reap a good character, you're creating for yourself a really good destiny in the future. This in Buddhism was called skillful behavior and unskillful behavior, or kusala and akusala. Doesn't mean good and evil or good and bad. It means what are the things that are going to create for you a great and a beautiful destiny. So these are some of the ways in which we can start to create our own real soulmate. If you have created a good character and a good destiny, you will always be your own soulmate. You will always be your own best friend. You will only need a little bit of space, a little bit of time in order to bring your attention back to yourself and be happy. If, on the other hand, you have allowed your mind to go running around like a crazy monkey, then what's going to happen is you're going to have a character like a crazy monkey. You're going to be unable to control your own self. A person who is well controlled, well tamed, who understands their own mind, can see their own thoughts and habits. This kind of person is somebody who has reaped a beautiful character and a beautiful destiny.